My friends, good morning. We had some great conversations this week within our Tuesday and Thursday meetings in Thumos. If you're new to this channel, the objective of these videos is to help you level your game, specifically around the area of fitness, health, strength, performance, etc. So we focused by design on supplements. There's a lot of confusion out there. What supplements does one need to take? Does one even need to take supplements? What type, what brand, what timing, how much? If you're new and you watch this video, you're gonna see a whole lot of vitamins that I pull out. This is my personal arsenal. This is what I use, what I believe in, based on not only how I feel, how I sleep, how I perform, but perhaps even more importantly, quantifiable data, specifically lab work, blood work, and even my Oura ring. I want data, analyze the data to determine what levers to pull, aka what supplements to take. Take more, take less, back off, what do I need? If you're just starting out, please don't get overwhelmed by all the vitamins that I show. If you're just going to start with, say, 3 vitamins, that's not a bad place to start. I would tell you, start with the 3 that your blood work says that you most need. So for example, you can test for magnesium, blood work. Not a bad place to start. I find a lot of people do very well, 400 milligrams of magnesium in the PM. Great place to be, great place to start. Fish oil. By the way, this is a brand I like, Life Extension. Most people can do very well on fish oil. You'll see in the video sort of what to look out for when you do when you do fish oil, if you do fish oil. But again, we can look at blood labs, cholesterol, the good, the bad, triglycerides. This stuff has a mild blood thinning effect. Fish oil is not a bad place to start for the beginners out there and for the advanced. It's one of my must-haves. It's an everyday, not a time to time. A multi would probably be my third. Blood work or not, it's going to be sort of the buffet of vitamins and maybe more importantly the minerals that have just been depleted from our environment, our soils, etc. So it's just a good insurance policy. So if you're new, consider starting with those 3. Most importantly, go get labs done. Take what you need based on your lab. So here's the rest of the video where I go through my personal supplements. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please like and subscribe. Share your thoughts. If you've got a vitamin or supplement that you're loving or that you think is essential or something I didn't cover, please share it. Let us know. I'd love to hear from you. All right, here comes the video. Vince added magnesium. Vince has put together, remember what we said? 1 night of sleep on a supplement, we're not buying it. 2 nights, we're not buying it. 3+, okay, now we're listening. Vince is what, 5-6 days in? I think he just nailed, what, an 89 sleep for those that are on that thread. I love this. Our collective sharing and collective winning, men helping men win, that's what we're up to. And I get excited as hell about that. So that is sort of the objective for all of this information and data that we're throwing at each other. This is less of a coaching call, although we see too many coaching calls on Tuesdays. They happen a little more on Thursday. But this is about protein, impactful, insightful info. All right, I'd like to, if you guys are okay with it, let me go through my supplements. Specifically, I've kind of got 2 categories, at least in my mind. The must-haves, which are the all the times, and the nice to haves, or the from time to times. Does that make sense? And I'll kind of try to remember which ones those are. If I forget, if you've got questions on each, ask the question. I'll do my best to answer it, and or someone in the call may chime in, right? I'm looking at the call here. There's plenty of you that are pretty knowledgeable. I say pretty knowledgeable. I'm just kind of guesstimating, looking at the collective. You know, Jason comes to mind. He and I have been talking supplements for probably 6 years now. And so he's got some pretty good knowledge as well. And I'm sure I'm leaving people out. So, you know, Chad is hot and heavy. Chad's the new guy that you got to watch out for. You know, he's all into this shit. He's geeking it at 12 midnight. And so Chad, I love that. It's good energy and it teaches me things as well. 2 per day. 2 per day. This is Life Extension brand. You guys have heard me brag about them. Why? Because I love the value. By value, I'm talking about price versus efficacy. I like Life Extension. I showed y'all the magazine last time. I'm looking at it here. I've been getting the magazine for 20 years. These guys have been around for over 30 years. They've got MDs, they've got PhDs, and they've got real life people like me and you who have measured and monitored our blood test results from taking these vitamins. 2 per day is a multivitamin. Multivitamin is just all around insurance. It's all around insurance. I like it for the vitamins, but I love it for the minerals. I don't know where else to go get the selenium and the boron and the chromium and the manganese. That stuff is not in our soils for various reasons like it used to be. So I love a multivitamin and mineral, but I especially love it for the minerals. I take 2 per day, both in the AM. I used to do AM and PM of this vitamin called 2 per day. But I stopped taking it in the PM because it's got some AM vitamins, some wake me up or keep me up vitamins like B vitamins. So I push it all at the front of the day. 2 per day. Cheap, affordable, good insurance. Abby takes it. I take it. Abby takes it. I should give it to my kids, but they've worn me down with the vitamins and stuff. So I'm slacking as a dad. But I could easily give them 1 a day, just cut that in half. Questions about 2 per day or multivitamin? That's a must-have, I believe. Super omega-3, that's my fish oil. I really consider it a must-have. It's an all the time, not from time to time. I love fish oil. I love it for the mild blood thinning effects. I don't like someone taking a normal daily baby aspirin and fish oil. It can double up. A buddy of ours that some of us know, he almost bled out with a 3-day nosebleed. Arguably, he should have gone to the doctor 2 days prior to a 3-day nosebleed, but it is what it is. Dentists and doctors should know this. They do know this. If they remember, they asked you before you go in for surgery to get off all fish oils because of that mild blood thinning effect. By the way, if you're going to go donate blood, take your fish oil. Take your fish oil. Drink a lot of water. Your donation will go really fast. And I can give you a lot of examples about that. Super omega-3 is the one I like and take. I would challenge you, if you've got a better one, then let's talk. I've yet to see it, but they've got to be out there. But when you look at fish oils, you got to compare apples to apples. You can and will find a cheaper one. Do you belch it? Does your wife belch it? If you're belching it, it's either A, not a good brand, or B, it's gone rancid or expired. Every now and then a bottle like this, I'll taste fish or I'll belch up a fish. And there's a hole poked in one of them, or it's something very minor. It's not a consistent problem. You're going to get it from time to time, but it shouldn't be all the time. You shouldn't have fish burps, fish belches. I like 2 grams of fish oil a day, although I've got Abby on 1 gram a day. Remember, I love quantifiable results. So what I'm expecting to see, what I'm looking for on the blood test results, whether it's through your normal doctor, through discountedlabs.com, on your own internet-based labs, and we're looking at it. If I can help as well, or through Ways to Well. I'm looking at cholesterol, the good, the bad, and I'm looking at triglycerides and also platelets. With fish oil, I expect or hope to see those numbers healthy, but I love to see those numbers improving, like the cholesterol numbers improving and triglycerides going down. And that's the quantifiable results I love seeing from fish oil. Did I forget anything on fish oil? I take mine AM and PM, 2 and 2, 4 caps total a day of this super omega-3. When you compare, by the way, apples to apples, you got to look at labels, look at cost, and look at labels, and look at the milligrams of not only fish oil total, EPA and DHEA when you're comparing fish oils. When you run the math on EPA and DHEA and the amounts, and then sort of compare it to the price, or maybe it's divided by the price, that's the best way, I think, to compare apples to apples. And that's where I see, Life Extension tends to shine. I'm not saying there's not a better deal out there, right? But so far I haven't yet found it. There are others out there that are good brands, Nordic Naturals, and there's several others. I'm thinking cost here as well.
I know whenever I had my blood work done the first time, and then whenever I did it the second time, after doing the omegas, I was on cholesterol medicine from my doctor, and she was able to take me off that cholesterol medicine because she said it was doing more harm than what it was after I started taking the omega.
Yeah. Hey, and we're just talking like the bloods and the lipids. But if you go, by the way, I like healthline.com a lot. So if I ever want to look something up health-wise, I'll go fish oil, Healthline in Google or DuckDuckGo. The reason I like Healthline is I believe for me, they walk this nice balance between scientific and technical literature and a real world article. So it's really a real world article, but they give good science-based data. So I love Healthline as opposed to WebMD or something like that. But my point was, beyond lipids, fish oil, it has a whole lot of other benefits. Joint health, mood, cognitive enhancement, et cetera, et cetera. I take a B complex. I'm going to call this a time to time instead of an all the time for me. Let me explain. I'm taking this because my Ways to Well, that brilliant report that some of y'all are familiar with, tells me I'm low in B vitamins. Many people get what they need out of this multi. If you look, there's well over the RDA recommendation for B vitamins. Our RDA is not optimal, right? It's just a go by, it's just a yard sign, it's just a guidepost, but it's not optimal. So I look at it, but I don't like fall in love with it. But in my particular report, not just a one and done, but time and time again, I was told I had a greater need for B vitamins. I'm pulling through those B vitamins for whatever reason, running through them. So I added a B complex. Yes, I have yellow pea, no harm. Don't worry about it. If you add a 2 per day, a multi or a B vitamin, you're going to have yellow pea. It's water soluble. Expect that. No harm, no foul, no problem. And by the way, my last blood work for the first time in a long time cleaned up my need for the B vitamin after taking this. And all I do is take one a day. By the way, it's a B complex. My need was B12. And so what I would tell y'all, if you have that same need, you can take B12. But I go, well, I can take the B12, but why not take the entire complex, the B6 and the others? And then the body's just going to get rid of what it doesn't need. So you may not need that. I did, so I take that. Glucosamine, chondroitin. It's a hard one for me to categorize this one. Kind of a must-have, a nice-to-have, somewhere in between an all the time and a time to time. I take it all the time unless I just get lazy and don't hit click, to buy my next round of this. This for me is overall joint support. I'm not eating the whole chicken. I'm not eating the whole cow. All of that collagen and all. I'm not doing that. I should be, but I'm not. And I'm not even taking a collagen protein. Arguably, maybe I should be. But what I am doing, and what I've done for 20 plus years now, is take a glucosamine, chondroitin, MSM. So I feel like I'm getting the micronutrients, the essential elements needed, hopefully, to build bone, tendon, cartilage, etc. I no longer take this looking for joint or symptom relief, although it's very common. It's why so many people buy this and give it to their pets. I have found when I have gotten some joint relief on it years ago, it wasn't it's not an aspirin deal. It's not a BPC 157 quickness either. It took a couple of 2 or 3 weeks to build up in my system before I got relief. But I'm really not taking this for relief. I'm taking it for ongoing long-term support. Glucosamine, chondroitin, MSM, super cheap. Doctor's Best, I don't know if this brand, I have no reason to doubt this brand. And I don't even know if Life Extension, they probably sell one. I just haven't, I've never used it for whatever reason. This bad boy right here, magnesium, I'm going to call it a must-have. Maybe you're eating enough magnesium, maybe you're eating a whole truckload of vegetables and getting enough magnesium. I am not. The majority of people are not. This is why Vince Bavaro, this one little $20 hack and that one phone call perhaps changed his life. It's beautiful. 400 milligrams is all he added in the PM. That's what I recommend. Someone put in a thread, hey, can I do more? I mean, yeah, you can do 500 milligrams, but why? 400's proven. It's the amount. It's still within this RDA. Again, it's not all about the RDA, but it's still within that. We can measure magnesium on blood test. And so you can talk with Denise or whoever at Ways to Well if you're using them to make sure you're where you want to be. but magnesium can have a calming effect, a relaxing effect. Great. It's why I take it in the PM. It's why I recommend it in the PM. I take the glycinate version. I'm totally cool with the citrate, no problem. If you take too much magnesium, think of milk of magnesium, right? You're going to potentially upset your stomach and get the runs, just like vitamin C. But 400 milligrams seems to be a nice amount. I find a lot of women take the same amount and do well on it.
Jody, is that the same thing as ZMA, zinc, magnesium, something or other?
Yeah, yes and no. Zinc has magnesium in it. This does not. This is just magnesium. All right, so if you're going to take ZMA, and a lot of people take it, a lot of men specifically take it because they're trying to naturally bump their testosterone. And you and I know that that has limited, like what I find is if a man is grossly deficient in a mineral and puts that mineral in, then oftentimes he can get a bump in testosterone. But it's not, most commonly, it's not enough. And so then working with someone like Ways to Well, perhaps you are, Perry, then I'm only using ZMA if there's a specific reason based on quantifiable data like blood work that says, you know what, I need magnesium and I need zinc. And I forget, Jason, do you remember what the other, there's one more ingredient in the ZMA. I haven't used it in so long.
Aspartate.
Okay. So here's the deal with zinc. If you get over 50 milligrams a day, and fitness guys have tried everything to push testosterone, it just doesn't typically work that way. It only helps typically if you're deficient. Like more is not better, of course. If you start pushing zinc much more than 50 milligrams, then we need to be looking at introducing copper. So these minerals, that's why I like a multi, because if you push too much of one, especially for too long, you can knock others out of balance. Nothing at all wrong with the Cal Mag. I love like a 1-to-1. Yeah, this is a 1-to-1 ratio. I don't take this one currently. Abby takes this one, Cal Mag 1-to-1. What's happening is a lot of people are supplementing calcium, and calcium's now added to cereals and orange juice, and calcium, bone health. But bones are more than just calcium. Magnesium plays a role in that as well. So what happens is calcium can get high and people have magnesium needs. And so I like the idea of a 1-to-1 ratio. I don't take this one because I take magnesium and I take a different form of calcium. I'll talk to you here in a second. And I also eat yogurt. I believe with my body type and my blood, my blood testing, genetic testing, and probably most importantly, that Everlywell food test that some of you guys saw the video on that. I'm a fan of these food tests. I happen to believe I'm doing okay on dairy, very okay on it, especially yogurt. So I'm getting the calcium via the dairy. I love it every night, which arguably I think helps me sleep. And so I'm adding the magnesium sort of by itself. But if I weren't doing that, I'd look at a Cal Mag 1-to-1 ratio. Make sense? 500 to 1,000 milligrams. So in this one, it's six caps would be 1,000 milligrams. So 3 caps, 500 milligrams would not be a bad place to start. Although arguably, if you look at, recommendations like Healthline, you'll see that, based on the age of a person, 800, 900, 1,000 milligrams of calcium is what's recommended. This is the calcium I take, calcium D Glucorate. I think I would call this a nice to have for me, not a must have. I've been taking it, I would call it a time to time, but I've been taking it a long time. So if that's not confusing enough for you, I take 1 capsule of this and it's 500 milligrams of calcium. So, and remember, I'm taking my magnesium at 400 milligrams. So it's fairly balanced. And then I'm eating a little yogurt. So I'm still a little higher than calcium than magnesium, but I feel good. And my blood work looks fine. Calcium D Glucorate, I haven't seen a lot of studies on this. Dave Asprey's pushed out an article or two that talks about one of the things this does is cleanses the liver. It actually, the article said it can lower estrogen via cleansing and detoxing the liver. There's a whole nother topic we could talk about: estrogen, estradiol, E2 specifically. We used to want to kill it and crush it. Now we know it's healthy, like all other hormones. So we want to keep them balanced. But the bottom line is, that was only one study. I can't prove out that this works, but I'm currently taking the calcium D glucorate. You'll see it sometimes, Chad, on some of these forums. You know, a lot of men get very obsessed with estrogen. They need to let it come up when testosterone gets high. They both need to come up as a ratio. And you'll hear calcium D glucorate referred to help that man lower his estrogen. But a lot of times for these guys, it's mental. They're blaming estrogen on what cortisol and stress is probably doing and contributing in their lives. Boron is not one of my staples. It's a nice to have. It's a time to time, not all the time. This is 10 milligrams, which is a nice healthy dose. I have recommended this to men. For those specifically, there's a handful of guys that have good total T, but it's all bound up in free test. It's like having all this money in the bank, say $100,000, but you can only withdraw $1,000. So it's not doing you any good. Total test versus free test is what you can get out of the bank. It's bound up by something called a protein called SHBG. Boron, there are studies and there are opinions on forums that says it works at 10 milligrams. I've never proven it out. I've recommended to people and asked them to come back to me with the blood work to see if it works, that quantifiable data, but I've just yet to see the follow-up. So my jury's out on that. Otherwise, I don't see a lot of reason to go take one specific mineral unless you know that you're deficient in it, then go grab it. But otherwise, why not take a multi? That way we don't get into the out of balance. DHEA, since I was 30 years of age, I've been on 50 milligrams for a long time. I've been taking DHEA since I was 30, but I do 50 milligrams of this in the AM. And there's an argument for AM, PM. I like AM just from an energy standpoint. Don't just go take, this or anything else. This is a hormone. So you want to get blood work. You would want, Ways to Well or somebody to say, you need DHEA as measured by DHEAS sulfate. Because again, this is a hormone. So that's the DHEA. This 50 I'm talking about is for me via testing with blood test results. I started taking this when I was 30 without blood test, just guessing. And it can convert to hormones like estrogen and testosterone in men and women. So it's best not to guess. But what I find is a lot of people need some support, just like they need extra support in the world in which we live and aging for testosterone, and for women, estrogen, pregnenalone, progesterone, et cetera. I find that DHEA is one that's needed. And 50 for me, I give it to Abby when she remembers to take her vitamins. She's only taking 5 milligrams. So anytime we're talking hormones, huge difference between a man and a woman in the dosage. That's the 5 milligram that the wife takes. Pregnenalone, 50 milligrams also life extension. I take this in the PM. It helps for relaxation, mood. Oftentimes men, especially if their hormones get out of whack, especially if their test and free test goes really high, they can be deficient in pregnenalone. And so that can contribute to nervousness, anxiety, edginess, things we don't want within Thumos. So I take 50 in the PM on that, milligrams. Here's the time to time, not all the time. Ashwaganda, someone asked about it in the thread the other day. Look, I don't take this and go see some results on blood work. This is an herb. It's just very popular, mainly for stress, calming, rebuilding, taxed cortisol levels. Adrenal health really is what I need to be saying here. Ashwaganda, they call it an adaptogen. And if I'm going to take it, I'm going to take 600 milligrams once a day and kind of cycle this from time to time. But again, I say this with caution. It's got a lot of studies behind it. You can go look at Ashwaganda at Healthline and see all sorts of studies and references. But I've never taken this and looked at blood work and said, okay, you know, I can trace this back to directly contributing to, you know, objective results. And I'm running out here, guys, which y'all probably are relieved. And I say that because, like, you guys don't need to go out and take all these. I don't recommend people take all these. There's, you know, I want to get guys to what are the 3 to start with, or the 3 to 5 that we really think and know that you need based on your lifestyle, and your quantifiable data, blood work. I throw some Oura ring in there, right? Like, what is your body telling you need? Like, for example, magnesium to wind down. D3 is one of those you may not need, but man, I don't know how someone gets the levels. I'm looking for, you know, optimal like 80 on blood test results. Is it nanograms per deciliter? I have to go back and look at the units. I was 102, or I was just over 100 last time. So I'm pulling back a little bit. I take D3 from Life Extension. Our buddy Vito was a little, had a good comment on this. Like he was doing some testing, and even with a really good brand like Life Extension, he couldn't get his D levels where he wanted them to be. And so when some people, like my mom, when she and I were talking, she never could get her D levels right until she added that K2 to the D3, and then she watched them go up. But in Vito's case, he ended up landing on just a cheap vitamin. I don't even know the brand, but he said it was very cheap and expensive, and he got his levels up. So, you know, take that for what it's worth. There's good brands, which are, you know, 90-10, you can't go wrong, but there may be individual variances for some of these vitamins as well. At D3, I'm taking 10,000 IUs a day. Sounds like a lot. It's not. If you run the conversion from an IU to a milligram, it's not much at all. 10,000 a day. It takes me 2 to 3 months to get my levels up to where I want them to be, which is at 80 optimized. And I continued to do this, and I got outside shirtless, you know, the old 20 minutes of sunshine, you know, around noon, you know, sort of shirt off. That's legit. I used to know those numbers. I want to say it's like 20 minutes of sunshine, you know, if you're a white male at a certain age, because all that has to do with how much sun you're able to absorb, D, that you can convert. Anyway, that was about 20,000 IUs with 20 minutes of sunshine, if I'm remembering correctly. But that's an ideal situations, the right age range, et cetera, et cetera. I'm a big fan of D3 for just about everybody to optimize. It's a hormone as well, believe it or not, D is. But to optimize overall immune system, it has a role to play in bone health as well. Plays in there with calcium. And others with bone health, mood, energy. I can't prove this. I just feel like it's a daytime vitamin. I take it in the mornings, but it's also fat soluble. So it, unlike a B complex or a C, it's not water soluble. So it doesn't go in and out very fast. So if you start putting this in, you know, expect weeks or months, you know, for it to come up considerably. And that's subjective, what I just said, right? But based on how much you want it to come up. But so it's not a right away. And if you're pulling it out or down, like I was recently, it's going to take time as well for your levels to come back down because it's fat soluble. Because of that, I take it with a meal with a fat source, but I also take it at the same time as I do my fish oil. Because if you're going to take D and you're going to take fish oil anyway, why not take them together to get maximum absorption? Because when you take D3, you need to take K2 with it. With higher doses of D, the theory is that because D has a role to play in bone development and calcium, the extra K helps keep the calcium where we want it, which is in the bones and teeth as well, as opposed to leaching out and getting somewhere else like your arteries or something like that. That's not to say that I found evidence or studies yet to show that high levels of D without K has led to problems. But I figure, why not, you know, why risk it? Why take the chance? So if I'm going to take, you know, elevated levels of D or more amount of D, just go ahead and throw some K in there with it. The K complex that I showed you is just a mixture of you know, like 3 different K sources. So it's got the K2 in it at 100 micrograms, but then it's got, you know, another version of K2 and a K1 as well. So it's just kind of the complex, super, super cheap. And I just take one of those a day with my D3.
Hey, Jody, there's a recent article on Epic Times from Dr. Mercola on vitamin D, and he talks about K2, but he also said that insufficient magnesium levels can also make vitamin D supplementation ineffective.
Well said. Thanks for sharing that. This he's referring to Joseph Mercola. You can go check him out. I don't remember. Do you remember his website? Is it mercola.com? You can find him there. You know, he got off the normal social media, but man, I was following him like 20 years ago. So he's on top of it from a natural standpoint. What he didn't bring in, at least in my opinion, you know, was the whole concept of Thumos and muscle and performance, right? He's just a, you know, skinnier guy that wants to be really, really healthy. But when he speaks, I'm listening.
Joe, did you cover amino acids, or is that a different time? Like branched chain
I did
amino
not.
acids?
Yeah, I did not cover it, you know, because I didn't get into. I was kind of bucketing that within nutrition, right or wrong, because the EAAs or BCAAs, essential amino acids or branched chain amino acids, are essentially broken down proteins. But you know, to Glenn's point, since you brought it up, you know, amino acids are basically undigested, broken down proteins, molecules. And so not a bad thing for those of us wanting to put on muscle, keep muscle, especially for catabolic. In other words, in a muscle breakdown scenario like dieting. So folks will take some EAAs or BCAAs during workout, heavy workout, weight training, or first thing in the morning, like I do when doing AM cardio. But that's sort of the concept, you know, for amino acids. There's an argument that says, why not go eat some protein? It's a great argument, right? And usually that argument probably wins. But there is a time and place, in my opinion, for sipping some amino acids. Like when you're walking first thing on an empty stomach, you can't get to a meal. If you wanted to do a modified fast, this I like, an intermittent fast, sipping EAAs throughout the day makes sense to me. You won't, it's not truly defined as a fast, but you're giving muscles fuel in the form of the amino acids to where they don't want to atrophy, perhaps.
Jody, do you take so vitamin C, do you get enough in your multi and you don't supplement at all when you're sick, or do you take extra C to digest extra protein, or can you talk about that?
Man, it's a great question. I actually thought about that before this call. I don't take C, and I haven't taken C outside of if I think I'm getting sick. And part of that thinking I'm getting sick is also looking at the Oura ring. What is it telling me? Because my HRV will go in the gutter, my heart rate will go up, my body temperature, even if I can't detect it yet on a you know, thermometer, it shows some things on body temperatures. Anyway, so then, David, I will absolutely load up on C, like a gram every 2 hours. But it's really not in my ongoing day-to-day. Arguably, you know, whether I'm right or wrong. Our buddy James, who used to sit with us, he owns a vitamin shop. He loves C. I want to say, we did a video series together. I think it was great. It was fun. And he's got it in his top 3 or 5. I did not. So to answer your question, Dave, I feel like I get C, of course, in my 2 per day. I eat fruit and veggies every day. I love, you know, like an orange. But it's nothing like the high dose 1 gram every 2 hours if I'm fighting something off. The other thing that's nice about C is there's studies, I've never proven this out, but there's plenty of studies pointing to C reducing cortisol levels. That could be a very good thing. Time that around training, hard workouts like post-workout. We do want to bring down cortisol levels for sure as an antagonist to other anabolic hormones like testosterone, right? So, David, I see nothing wrong with those that keep C. You know, there's some evidence around it helping to fight not all cancers, but perhaps certain cancers. So I like C, I'm just not taking it every day.
Thank you.
Mhm.
One more. Some of
Yeah.
us are taking iodine to help with metabolism, thyroid type things. I saw Jason put it in one of his chats too. He looks like he does it like me. Are you still a believer in that around it having metabolic effects, or what do you think?
Yes, so I haven't had a chance to look at the chats, but when Jason types something in or says something, I'm leaning in and listening. I'm an absolute fan of iodine, man. I'm an absolute fan. I think those of us who aren't salting our food, which is 90% of the population, are avoiding good old table salt, which is iodized. It's added. I don't know how they're getting enough iodine, and the thyroid is starving for it. So I love. So there's Idorol. A time to time for me, I should have pulled it out of the bucket. And this is so, I can't recommend this, but this is so potent and so strong. I will literally just nibble off a little piece. Highly subjective, right? I can't tell you the amount I'm taking, other than the whole cap is like 12.5 milligrams. So you would almost want this prescribed, although it's not prescribed, David. But my point is, this is straight up iodine, which I've nibbled in the past. Why not go take kelp? The number 300 is in my mind, so I don't know if that's the measurement. In the Japanese, right? They're eating loads of seaweed, so they're probably looking good. They are looking good. They got to be from an iodine standpoint. I like the kelp. I got off it because I was muscle tested, and we've talked a little bit about that. I'm a believer if the right person is muscle testing. That right person for me was Craig Nemo. He showed me things about myself, supplements in my body that he couldn't have known, only I knew. And he freaked me out. He was so accurate. So compliment to him, Craig Nemo and Katie as a chiropractor. He tested me week for kelp. Here's where I went wrong. I'm an all or nothing guy sometimes. I just dumped it. Well, but man, duh, I know that if we clean something out of our diet that our body is reacting to, like a food sensitivity supplement, reaction, there's a good chance we can reintroduce it slowly at some point in the future, like 6 months. So David, if you're taking kelp, that feels right. That makes sense. Doesn't mean that someone doesn't go when they're getting optimized, that they still don't throw in, a natural. It's common for ways to well, along with testosterone, to throw in some natural armor mixture of T3, T4, T2, a natural thyroid as well. But I love the iodine. I salt my food. And so, and I absolutely, I know Dave does, Chad, I think you're doing it. We salt. Charlie, I think you probably are now. And it's not pink Himalayan anything. Nothing wrong with those minerals. They're great, and they can alkalize the body and whatnot. But I use regular salt because it gives me, like those other salts, the muscle contraction and the pumps, but it's got the iodine in it. And I'm currently not taking kelp, so I want it for that. What did I miss, brothers? Anything else for the rest of our brothers? Think about those who can't attend this call. Anything they need to hear? Quick hacks around supplements?
Jody, I'll just say that, speaking from personal experience, it may be a good idea if you're new to supplements to introduce one at a time. I have a very sensitive body chemistry, so more than once in my life, I've jumped on quite a few supplements at one time, ended up with a skin rash or some other issues, and then you have to go through that whole process of eliminating everything and reintroducing it slowly. So it may be a good idea just to introduce things, slowly and keep a journal. I'd really like to do that lately. If I'm feeling good, I want to know what supplements that I'm on, and I want to be able to go back and look at that. I know you're a fan of that.
I love it. And there's others from time to time, right, that we may want to cycle, like the adrenal help with the ashwagandha, or some sort of a cleanse, liver cleanse or something like that. Let's be able to answer, each of us, if we're responsible for our own health, using very smart people like MDs, MPs, Ways to Well, chiropractic, whatever you believe in, to assist you in that journey. Let's be able to speak to the why behind everything we're taking, perhaps. And that why, the more we can relate it back to quantifiable data. At the end of the day, I showed you a lot. The downside of that is you go, man, that's if someone's starting out, I wouldn't show them just like this. I would say, here's the 3 I think you need. And then let's go back that up with blood testing. And maybe that's 3, maybe that's 5. But I would keep it very simple and answer that why we're taking each one. Because the other thing is when someone's taking a bucket load, like I just pulled from a bucket, if no one's looking after, if no one's in their bullpen holistically looking after everything, they've probably never heard they shouldn't be taking 100+ milligrams of zinc long term, because they can get something out of balance, and that zinc may be in 3 different things. So it's one of the things I want to do when I do meet in the past, when I've had my one-on-ones, show me everything you're taking. Okay, cool. Why are you taking that? Because it's already in that. So it's about saving money, but making sure that it's the big picture.
Hey, Jody, I know a lot of people are taking this. You get this at Costco, and I was taking a lot of it. Its number 1 ingredient is soybean oil, gelatin, vegetable glycerin, and corn oil. So those are oils that are really not that great for us. Evidently they're getting the D from soybean oil. So you may want to look at changing that.